If you're interested in learning more about an effective treatment for adults with ADHD, you've come to the right place. Throughout this journey of discovery, we will help guide you through the various ins and outs of what it means to receive a psychosocial, or in other words, non-medication-based treatment to help reduce the symptoms and related impairment of ADHD in adults.
Currently, there are 2 empirically supported treatments specifically for adults with ADHD that are available. Empirically supported simply means that these treatments have been tested in a variety of settings and are effective with helping to reduce problems typically experienced by adults with ADHD. Both these treatments are quite similar and are based on principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, which we'll term CBT from here on out. CBT is really just a fancy way of saying that the treatments involve analyzing and working to change both how we think and how we behave. Now, as an aside, we should quickly note that these treatments are geared towards adults in general, but if you're a college student who is experiencing difficulties related to ADHD, the treatment we'll be discussing today can be useful for you as well.
Moving on, overall the 2 treatments are quite similar. In general, a CBT treatment for adults with ADHD can take many forms. Treatment can consist of individual sessions between you and a therapist, a group treatment approach, or it might be a mixture of both individual and group sessions. Typically, treatment lasts up to 15 sessions. During that time, sessions will cover a wide variety of material, including information about ADHD, addressing troubles with time management and organization, reducing distractibility, addressing any negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors associated with an ADHD diagnosis, and finally, work towards relapse prevention.
So you may be feeling overwhelmed and thinking, what do I need to do to succeed? And one of the biggest must-haves is simply a desire to change, a willingness to stick with the program, and the patience really to handle the ups and downs that go along with learning any new skills and habits in life. So if you believe you have those skills, then this treatment really is for you. Now, I know this might seem like a lot, and it might even seem overwhelming. But fear not, for Ryan and I are going to spend the rest of the time talking in more detail about specific parts of the program to help remove any concerns and answer any remaining questions. We hope to make this brief introduction as pain-free and enjoyable as possible. So we will be offering a number of demonstrations to help illustrate some of the ideas and techniques you would likely encounter in a CBT-based treatment for adult ADHD. We hope you enjoy this journey that we're about to go on and find it as informative as we do.
Let's begin.
So what is ADHD and how is it treated?
Despite popular media opinion, ADHD is a valid diagnosis. It is a neurobiological disorder and is not related to anything like laziness or general intelligence. Typically, ADHD in adults is treated with medication, but this is not the only treatment. In fact, not everyone responds to medication. Some don't want it, and some don't like the side effects. While medication can help you concentrate, it doesn't help you get organized and figure out what to concentrate on.
That's where therapy comes in, right?
Right. Each session will have an agenda covering specific topics. There will be homework involved, and I know what you're thinking, homework? Really? Yes. In fact, the homework is considered as important as, or even more important than attending sessions, but we advise to do both to get the most out of treatment. The assignments or homework are less like schoolwork and more like practicing a new skill that you want to get better at, kind of like taking guitar lessons and practicing at home in between each session. Each session involves reviewing the previous week's homework with your therapist, as well as an assignment for the next session. ADHD is characterized by difficulties with following through on tasks, so some of the skills that are taught in treatment may seem difficult at first. This is natural, but with practice they become much easier and eventually become like second nature. This is why doing work during session with a therapist, as well as practicing outside of session, is so important and can lead to incredible gains. One of the biggest concerns for individuals with ADHD, especially college students and adults, is time management, right?
That's right. Time management includes topics such as time awareness, planning, prioritizing, using to-do lists, breaking down large or seemingly impossible tasks, and avoiding procrastination, to name a few. Each of these topics, and perhaps others, will be discussed in some detail. For instance, as a general rule, we as humans just aren't all that good at keeping track of or accurately estimating time. In other words, we all tend to have issues with our time awareness. Yet for individuals with ADHD, these troubles are often experienced more often and with greater intensity. Ever feel like you're constantly running around just putting out fires and never able to actually get ahead of the game?
Why didn't you just write your essay? Stop wasting time!
It's likely that issues with time management play a large part in creating this feeling. So by addressing these issues and learning better, more adaptive time management strategies, we typically see reductions in stress due to always being behind. An added bonus is that once you've mastered the techniques, you'll be in a place that leaves you feeling caught up on the things you need to complete more regularly. And this not only reduces stress, but it can help increase mood quite dramatically.
So how are these things accomplished?
Good question. I'll shed some light on this by going into more detail regarding two big elements of time management skills: planning and breaking down large and seemingly impossible tasks. So, planning out your day in a structured manner enables you to clearly and quickly determine what you need to accomplish and when. And this helps you to stay on track and avoid the feeling of being behind. So the key to doing so is through the use of scheduling in a planner and maintaining a to-do list. Now I'm guessing at this point that you may be thinking that this sounds too simplistic and hey, I could do that easily. But let me assure you that this is a skill that will take great amounts of both practice and patience. And that's because these skills aren't typically taught at the level of depth that you'll learn in treatment. So ideally, through the use of a planner, one would go from this to this. For some, this may seem really easy, and for others, daunting. But through the course of treatment, you'll be given a number of tips and tricks that will help you to better estimate how long tasks will take, so that you can plan more accurately. Other tips include learning when to schedule certain types of tasks to help you become better at using your time more effectively.
Interesting. Let's jump forward a bit and talk about issues with breaking down seemingly large or impossible tasks or projects. In general, most people find it hard to sit down and do something they might not be all that motivated to do, or that seems complex. As this is an area of concern typical in adults with ADHD, how does treatment help?
Well, thankfully, part of the treatment will focus on teaching ways to effectively break these seemingly impossible tasks down into such small pieces that really you feel as though you could do them with no difficulty. Now, there are a number of important steps in this process that will be taught during treatment. But one of the important parts, leading full circle back to the planner, is the need to take each of these smaller, broken up tasks and schedule them into your planner, allowing for sufficient time to complete the task. Keeping in mind that the sooner you do this, the more time you'll have to space out the scheduling of each of these smaller, broken up tasks. That way you really only need to do a little bit each day in order to have a completed project by the deadline. Another major theme of CBT treatment for adults with ADHD revolves around the need for organization and the reduction of potential distractions in your environment. So this involves modifying your environment where you work in order to focus better and really achieve your various goals. For instance, in each of the places that you work, you should start thinking about what might distract you in that space and then try to get rid of those distractions. So for example, removing electronic devices or blocking certain websites like Facebook on your computer or removing a TV from the room, etc., etc. So you'll also be working on creating and maintaining clutter-free spaces throughout your home and other environments, such as your workplace, in order to increase an overall sense of organization and decrease distractibility. In order to do this, you will be taught how to set up, implement, and maintain several types of organizational systems. Think of the stress reductions going from this to this. No more wasting valuable time searching for important documents or worrying about whether you've lost them. Everything has a place, and you know where that place is. So how are problematic thoughts and feelings dealt with in treatment?
These issues are dealt with through the use of adaptive thinking. Negative thoughts that interfere with completion of tasks, cause distress, or add to your distractibility are called automatic thoughts. For example, if you have a project deadline coming up, you may have the immediate automatic thoughts like, I'll never be able to get this done. Negative thoughts like these can make a task seem even more stressful and increase the likelihood that you will procrastinate in order to avoid stressful situations. This is especially important for individuals with ADHD, so the goal of learning to think adaptively is to reduce these negative automatic thoughts.
So how do we fix this pattern of negative thinking?
Well, in order to break the cycle, it is important first to identify when these thoughts happen. To do this, we use what is called a thought record. These forms are used to track when and in what situations negative thoughts occur. The first column here asks you to write what was happening when you had a negative thought. For example, I received an email reminding me that my deadline was coming up. In the next column, it asks you to identify the automatic thought that entered your mind when you saw this email. Here you might write, I'll never be able to get this done in time. Additionally, it asks you to identify what emotion you felt as this thought came up. It can even be multiple emotions. For example, I felt stressed, worried, sad, etc. Then you record how intense each of these emotions are, from 0 to 100. The purpose of this exercise is to help you see how your thoughts can affect your mood and how having these negative thoughts may not be very helpful. It also aids in identifying these thoughts so they can be challenged in a more helpful way. Our method of challenging these thoughts is to come up with an adaptive response that challenges the truthfulness of the automatic thought. An example of this would be, if I worked on this project regularly, I can get it done by the deadline. Based on your adaptive response, you then reevaluate your belief in the original automatic thought and the intensity of your original emotions. These challenges will probably not change your mood immediately, but through practice, challenging automatic thoughts will become, well, automatic, and your mood will begin and continue to improve.
Well, what if I forgot how to implement these tasks once treatment is over?
That's another great question. To do this, we set up review sessions for all the strategies you have learned over the course of treatment. We review organizational skills, planning skills, how to manage distractibility, and how to think more adaptively. It is important to know that once the end of therapy is reached, practice is extremely important. The goal of therapy is not to fix you and send you on your way now that everything is done. The goal is to teach you the skills to do all of these things on your own, to be your own therapist in a sense, using all the skills you've learned in treatment. It is important to continue using them throughout your life, and it might even be useful to schedule a booster session sometime after you're finishing treatment, as a sort of refresher course. Your efforts will pay off. The last portion of treatment for adult ADHD focuses on relapse prevention. Essentially, this is just a fancy way of saying that time would be spent reviewing the progress you had made during the course of treatment. You would likely discuss valuable tools and skills that you learned in practice, examine which tools and skills worked best, and which you struggled with, and discuss how you might adapt those you struggled with so they become more practical and useful for you moving forward. You would also discuss any thoughts or concerns you might have with regard to continuing the use of these skills after treatment ends. Basically, so this would be a troubleshooting session in order to work out any final kinks or bugs from the system, so that you can end treatment with your best foot forward.
If this sounds like a treatment you are interested in receiving, please visit one of the resources shown on the screen and listed in the video description below to find a treatment provider near you. When you contact a provider, make sure to ask what their recommended treatment is or if they provide CBT for ADHD.